G'day there and welcome to The Rayside. My name is Hannah and today I'm going to be giving you my unfiltered thoughts about the Bad Batch Season 3 premiere. So, off the bat, I'm going to be going through these episodes as if they were just one big episode. Seeing as they all released at once, it kind of makes sense as a story to talk about them all at once because these were some fantastic animated Star Wars episodes. Going into this season, I think season 2, refreshing my mind since, that came out and having a rewatch of that season, I found season 2 to be a little jumpy. There were some really fantastic episodes in season 2, but each episode was its own little capsule of a story that happened, where even just in these 3 premiere episodes, they were so cohesive, so intertwined with one another, and so important to the overall main goal of the Bad Batch of this show. And you can totally tell the tone and the plot for the season from this premiere, which I really, really loved. Obviously, we are starting off in Mount Tantus, and the fact that we see Omega first, and we focus on Omega first, I really loved. Now, I have enjoyed Omega's character over the journey of the Bad Batch, but probably equal to how I've enjoyed the rest of the Bad Batch's characters and journeys as people. But in this episode, and in these premiere episodes, it really became apparent to me how much I've actually really, really enjoyed getting to know Omega. And I think just in these few episodes, in this hour we spent with them, with this, combined time, we got to learn so much more about her, and we got to see, obviously there's a time jump, which was absolutely amazing. We got to see so much more of her and, her a bit more matured, bit more level-headed and, thinking very logically. Omega was introduced similar to how Ahsoka was introduced in Clone Wars as this young, very just flippant, let's go young child that the group have to kind of tame throughout the season. Where this premiere, she is serious, she's focused. Obviously, she's locked on Mount Tantus, so she's a lot more focused, or kind of has to be. And there's that dialogue and conversation that she's having with Emery about, this feels like prison, and Emery saying, it's not, but that's Omega's experience. So naturally, her environment is making her a bit more serious. But there is that time jump, which does mature her. It's like half a year. I think someone calculated it. It's about 6 months. And, a lot can happen in 6 months, especially at that age. She's at that 13, 14 age. 6 months does definitely develop you. And we definitely see that in these episodes. The story that I have always wanted them to come back to, and I'm surprised they didn't do really much of this plot point kind of building in season 2, but this is a story that was kind of created and started back in season 1 of Bad Batch, is what is different about Omega. I love that we're coming back to this point, because there's one thing to just have interesting characters in Star Wars, and we have an interesting Jedi, interesting Sith, bounty hunters, and everyone in between. These characters are different, and the Bad Batch of, the 99 clones are naturally different, but Omega has always had that question mark on her of what makes her different, what sets her apart, why is she just that little bit special and with this group. And I love that we are finally coming back to getting the answer to this question. Very interestingly, we are going down the path of her blood does not degrade with the introduction of midichlorians. Now, I just have to say, I'm not a fan of the whole M count. I'm not a fan of that term. I'm just let's get it over with. Let's just say it's the midichlorians. Let's get it down. That's the technical term. I think once the whole Bad Batch is out, once season 3 is out, and we've gotten all 3 seasons of the Bad Batch, we're going to have this fantastic through line through these seasons of Omega's journey, of us learning and finding out about what is special about her. And we're getting these massive hints in these episodes. Nalay, being the absolute ally and helper that she is to our protagonist by not letting the Empire get to Omega's blood, is obviously the biggest telltale that there is something special about Omega's blood. To that climactic ending of the episode 3 of this premiere, of finding out that it does actually react well. It reacts well introduced to midichlorians, and it does not degrade and it doesn't not work. It's going to be something that will be very key for Palpatine's plans. Now, through all this storytelling on Mount Tantus, we see a lot of Crosshair as well, which is really exciting. We had only about 2 episodes of Crosshair in season 2, which, to be fair, they were like some of the best episodes, but I really wanted more Crosshair in this season and was hoping for it, and so I'm so glad we got so much of him in this premiere. But my goodness, is he tired? Is he sick? He is so worn out, and it's so sad to see. You can see he's just not just physically worn out, probably from the testing that the Empire is doing on him, but he's worn out mentally. He is so down and not insecure, that's not the right word, feels so undeserving of any recognition or appreciation. And that is so apparent in the dialogue that he shares with Amiga, where Amiga has that positive, childlike, we're going to get out of here, this is how we'll escape. He's so negative about it. Don't worry about me, forget about me. You just escape. I don't care, don't think about me, don't care about me. And that language, that difference is so contrasting of these two characters, of Amiga really having that wide-eyed, youthful outlook on life, and Crosshair accepting his fate and saying, look, I'm just never going to get anywhere. This is what life is going to be. Is so contrasting, but I think the whole time I kind of felt like, she's gonna get him out. They're gonna work together. So I really love the ending of the ending of episode 3, because I felt like it did justice to this duo we felt like that was brewing. But the Amiga Crosshair relationship has been something that's been really interesting, because it's not something we've seen a lot of on screen, like at all. The only real taste of it we got was in the premiere of season 1, the very first episode, Aftermath. These two had a very, very interesting dynamic as things were playing out. Crosshair was going down the line of Order 66 and the rest of the Bad Batch weren't. This was where things got really interesting, and they shared differences, and now we're at this point, 2 years probably after that, their first encounter with each other, and they're still sharing that disparity, but they're having to work together now. They're having to be a team and be together and work on something together, which is something that is just so interesting to see for Crosshair's character. On the topic of looking really tired and exhausted, Wrecker and Hunter. Oh my goodness. Wrecker and Hunter in episode 2 primarily is where we first see them in this premiere. They're great. It's great to see them again, of course, but they are tired. Artistically, they've done that very well. They've shown their armor. They've really worn out. there's not much color to what they're wearing, but just their faces, their expressions, their tone of voice is also worn. Even Wrecker, happy-go-lucky, I want to blow things up. That is completely gone from his character. He's so, okay, let's go, let's do it, okay, what to next? And so is Hunter. Hunter's always been that very broody type, but he is just even more so tired. But what is so beautiful about these characters is that you can see the relationship and the meaningfulness that Amiga has to them, because through this exhaustion of after the war of this point of the Empire's reign, they're still after Amiga and will not stop until they can find her again. And that's just something I find so beautiful. And the journey they go on is very interesting. So episode 2 specifically, I found very interesting. We go to this planet, I forget what the planet's name, and discover these little junior cloney boys. These guys were just hanging out in the forest, hanging out together, real kind of Lord of the Flies style, I thought, but I thought this was just an interesting little twist, a little bit of interest for the episode to just give it a bit of, just a bit of variation, I think, to the Tantus stuff. And this was a cool way to do it. This was a cool way to give us that, a bit of a different perspective. And it actually brought up a question that I hadn't thought of what happened to all the cadets that were mid-training in Order 66? Did their chips activate? Does everyone do it? Or did they, because they're not of a certain age, maybe it didn't work, but regardless, these guys are just hanging out in the jungle trying to survive. It was really cool to see them. And what a sweet little journey that they go on that, the Bad Batch saved them, Wrecker and Hunter saved them in the end. I'm assuming drop off to Pabu, as Hunter alluded to. Now, the mission that they go on kind of ties into what I really want to bring up, and is the interesting, twisted, calculated character of Dr. Hemlock. Such an awesome villain to introduce into the show. I love this guy. As much as I hate him, I love the way they've written this villain, because he's so well done. Again, the planet we are on with the junior clone boys and Hunter and Wrecker is a really interesting planet. It has an old science facility of the Empires that Hemlock worked at, and I think this is just a great little kind of plot padding, I would say, for the fact that they're testing out weird theories. They're testing out weird science stuff, and you can already tell all of this somehow links back to Palpatine and his plans of cloning, and it's one of my favorite Star Wars storylines of Palpatine's obsession of cloning himself and becoming eternal, essentially. But coming back to this planet, these slither vines that they call them, just being so creepy, and it's just such a great visceral show of the evilness that is being created and tested on. I think was fun. Like, of course, I don't think this is going to be like super impactful to obviously the overall story. Coming back, it was just that variation, I think, to the Tantus episodes, but it was a good different perspective. I think it was still close enough to the main storyline that it made sense in this premiere. Overall, across these 3 episodes, we had such interesting stories. We had the time jump for Omega to be that little bit older. We time with Crosshair that we see him getting weaker and weaker. Hunter and Wrecker have lost all character and joy and are just hellbent on finding Omega. And we see these, we meet these great junior clones and go on this great Star Wars-y, action-y mission until then the third and final episode of the premiere, where Omega and Crosshair escape, which actually, to my absolute surprise, I did not think they were going to escape this soon and this fast, but they did regardless. All these pieces add together. In my opinion, they probably should have just maybe made that into one big episode and released it as the premiere, but regardless, you watch back to back and it's fine. This was such a solidly fantastic premiere. There was so much information to it. There was really critical details with Omega's blood and what was happening there, as well as seeing where all the other characters are at. That was so important for us to see and hear. So all in all, through the action, we got great information, and I just can't wait to see where they take this Bad Batch story. It was such a fantastic premiere. I think I don't know what they could have improved on, so I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 across the board. It was not perfect, but it was pretty damn good, and something that I'm already had happily watched numerous times, all 3 of those episodes, and I think I will continue to rewatch. Make sure you are joining me for the live pre-shows of every Bad Batch episode, as well as the episode discussions live on the Rayside. If you want to enjoy more Star Wars entertainment and be a part of the Star Wars community here at the Rayside, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to know what is happening on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you always choose the Rayside.